The following program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.
Welcome to another episode of Gate City Chronicles. I'm your host, Kevin Avard. And today we're going to be talking about robotics. And we have a fantastic team who basically goes to school here in Nashua at the School of...
The Academy for Science and Design.
And what an amazing program that you folks are in. Now that's located here in Nashua off of Amherst Street, correct?
Yes.
And how long have and you're Ian?
I'm Ian.
And you're Maya?
Hello.
And you're Tim.
I am Tim.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
I'm excited to have you on the show for a number of reasons. But first, let's talk about the school that you go to. It's right off of Amherst Street. It's a charter school. How did you end up going to the charter school? Why were you going there?
Well, I know that in 7th grade, I went to Hollis Brookline Middle School, which I enjoyed, but I was told by a friend, actually, that they had found out about this charter school. And I've always been somebody who's really interested in science and technology and programming. And a school called the Academy for Science and Design sounded like a perfect fit.
Okay.
So I went there over the summer. I was actually one of the last 4 accepted in my class. And I'm really glad I was because...
So you had to be accepted?
Yeah, it's by lottery.
Oh, wow.
But it's very accepting. We have students from all sorts of backgrounds. So I've met a lot of different people that I never would have interacted with otherwise, and I'm glad I went.
Sounds good. And Maya?
So I actually found out about the school through robotics. So my brother joined the robotics team, and he met all of these cool kids that know how to code and know how to build robots. And so he found out that a majority of them go to ASD, and that's how we made it to ASD. I was also like the last person to be accepted into my grade.
Wow. Were a lot of people competing to get in?
It's a pretty large lottery. There's a lot of kids in 6th grade specifically that try and get in, but as you move up, there's less and less.
And how many years have you been there?
This is going to be my 4th year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And so you know 4 years ago that you wanted to go here?
Yep.
Interesting. Tim?
So back in 6th grade, back in 4th grade, I was given the opportunity to join ASD. Even though I was in 4th grade, I was not having a fantastic experience at my old school. And they would not let me go ahead and really pursue the type of academic rigor that I really wanted to do. And at the time, my brother was going to ASD. That's how really led me to go as well. And he helped introduce people to myself, and I got to know a whole bunch of upperclassmen. And what really made me go to ASD and make that decision was because I could finally pursue the type of education that I was not receiving at my old school.
And so it fit your needs, right? I mean, your individual needs, and it got your want to, if you will. I call it the want to. Mm-hmm. And it made learning fun, interesting?
It really did, because it was very difficult, but we had, it wasn't just testing. There were a lot of, in 6th grade, it is very difficult, and they gear you for middle school and high school, because a large part of ASD is, you will be academically challenged. And, Many kids may shy away from it, but I was very excited.
You were up to the challenge.
Absolutely.
Interesting. So I was excited because this is the second time I went to one of those robotic contests or competitions. It was at Wyndham, and you folks were partaking in that. Before I get into the competition, you mentioned that you did the Lego competitions as well?
I did for, I think it was 4 years when I was in elementary school, yeah.
And did they offer that at the academy as well?
Our FLL team, or First Lego League team, was actually run through somebody's home, basically. So it wasn't a school-based team.
Okay.
It was just a friend of mine, his brother, and their parents who happened to have a lot of Legos and happened to be
into it. Yeah.
Into it. And it became, that team in particular became one of the most successful First Lego League teams in the nation.
I think Hollis won again, actually.
They are on fire.
They are. I didn't know if it was a precursor to the robotics.
Well, yeah, there's 4 programs in First. You have a Junior First Lego League for younger elementary age, which leads into the First Lego League program. I think that one's actually the largest program now. And then beyond that, there's the First Robotics competition, which is large teams, large budgets. And there's also the First Tech Challenge, which runs parallel to that. It's also geared toward high school, but a slightly younger age, and the teams are much smaller. The competition is at a much smaller scale. So it gives the opportunity for people interested in First, if they don't have access to a full robotics team, to still be part of the action, I guess.
Okay. Maya.
Yes.
It's wonderful that you're involved with robotics. Are a lot of females involved with the robotics? Because it seems as though science is, more females are getting involved with science and with the tech, and are they getting more involved with this?
Yeah, so originally I didn't think there were going to be many girls on our robotics team, and we actually got a big influx this year. And we had a bunch of girls who were in leadership last year, and there's going to be more next year. And I'm on the electrical sub-team, and I am the only girl on the electrical sub-team, but we have a lot of girls who are in mech and CAD.
Interesting. It's important because years ago there used to be the idea that, well, women didn't get involved so much in science or mathematics, and we're seeing a huge push in empowerment, if you will.
Right. Well, it definitely teaches you to use your elbows a little bit.
Oh, is that right?
Push your way through.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, great, great. Well, I went to the first robotics. I think it was in Bedford. There was one that I went to. I think it was in Bedford. You could hear the thunder, if you will, and the excitement and the people just getting ready. And I went from team to team. And I was watching how people were they were all getting organized at building these little blocks with motorized blocks. And they had hydraulics, and they had cranes, and they had all kinds of things. And it didn't look like anything absolutely worth making. But then, when it got into the arena, and the circle around the arena, and then I saw these kids with these joysticks that were strapped on. They're walking around with these joysticks, and they're behind this glass. I'm thinking, that's cool. And then you had teams to support you, to feed the whatever's going on. You had people inside the arena working together, communicating back and forth. And, well, tell me a little, were you at that first one in Bedford?
We were not at the Bedford tournament, no.
Okay.
Our only competition we've gone to this year was at Wyndham, which was the week 1 competition.
All right.
But we do have a week 6 competition at Revere High School in Revere.
But same concept, you're in the arena and you have a team. Tell us, you're the senior, so tell us a little bit about the team and the structure of what's going on.
So the team has gone through a lot of changes in the past, but we've always stuck to a student-led and student-run type of team. Mm-hmm. And what we really mean by that is the students, we have student leadership. All of us have a role in student leadership. And we want to make sure that the students, one, we are the people who are making the decisions. We are those who are debating different issues on the team, as well as finding ways to fundraise and actually, create long-term stability with not only funding, but our sponsors, as well as longevity for the team.
Okay.
And the way that it is set up, we have, so in team leadership, we have 5 different sub-teams. So we have system subteam, which manages the robot, so making sure that everybody has time with it, there's no overlap, as well as the team, so everyone's being informed whether there's a meeting, gathering, stuff like that.
Do you all sit down and say, hey, look, this is what we're going to do first? I mean, this is how we're going to build it and design it?
We have leadership meetings about every week during build season, but at the start of build season, we have kickoff. So it's always a Saturday, and it's usually the first week of January, where we all sit down, the entire team, leadership, students on every sub-team, as well as mentors, and we go through all the game rules. We break into groups, all the students break into groups, and we analyze every single part of the game rule and then present it to the rest of the team. So we don't all read through it as a group because that would take forever.
Okay.
It's like 100 and something pages.
It's very long. So all of us, so we break into groups, and then we all get our sections, and then we present it. And then that is day one. We want to make sure that everyone understands the game rules, and then we move on to the actual strategy. So we do the same thing, and we all come together, discuss strategy for the game. What makes the most sense? Are there any loopholes per se that we could see and possibly attempt? And then on Sunday is when we make our decision. So in 2 days, we go through all the game rules, our strategy for the game, as well as a basic design and how we're going to create the robot and really pursue the game.
Have you had any disagreements with the team when you're presenting and wanting to present your own ideas?
Yeah, I mean, it's bound to happen,
Okay.
of course, but we sort them out. We all have different ideas of how we want the robot to look, what we want it to do, and then we sit down and talk about it and weigh our options, and we actually have a system of deciding what's worth using, like how we get the most points, what's easiest to make, and we figure that out together.
So when the competition's happening and something goes awry, something is smoking, it's the wires, oh my gosh. Are you ready with is this your role?
Oh, this is partially my role, but in essence, we always have a very large number of people at these competitions that sort of act as a pit crew.
Sure.
So last competition, it's a week one competition, and generally in these early week one, week two competitions when, everybody's still new to it, nobody's really been to a full competition before, things get pretty hectic.
Yeah.
And oftentimes I found myself with my laptop standing next to the bot with all the people with their joysticks. I was there with my laptop with an Ethernet cable plugged from my laptop into the robot, deploying the last minute bits of code to the bot to get it to run in that next match 60 seconds later. So it's a stressful experience up until the very end when we're playing the game. But that's why I enjoy it so much, because when you actually see out there that, oh, my mechanical parts that I made, or my money that I fundraised, or my code that I wrote is playing this game and eliciting cheers from a giant crowd, it's exhilarating, and it's something that really you can't replace.
Oh, it sounds exhilarating. I think one of the things that I'm taking away from your conversation, though, is in stressful moments, you're working really good together.
We
right?
love challenges.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, we got to figure this out. It's like MacGyver saving. And I use that illustration, but because the show MacGyver, when I grew up, he basically saves a nuclear power plant with a chocolate bar. It was amazing. You'd have to see it. But when you're in tough situations, you have to be creative, and you're learning to work together. Do you ever butt heads?
Of course.
Yeah.
I mean,
But you work through it, right?
We're teenagers.
Yeah.
I mean, we're bound to butt heads. But
Yeah.
the fact is, we all come to an agreement in the end. And some may still be opposed, but we want to make sure that everyone's voice gets heard.
So you folks are when you're creating it, you've got a system, you've got to put something in something, it's got to move somewhere, it's got to work on a code, it's got to have the right rod. You have hydraulics. What else is involved with these? What type of, all kinds of mathematics, you've got communication skills that you're learning, design, anticipation of all kinds of things.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to talk from the business end of things, because what tends to go overlooked is, yes, it is definitely geared for future engineers, and we are future STEM leaders. It's fantastic. We have we have the software into things. We have the fabrication and design. We have electrical. But what I take a lot of pride in, especially this year, is we have to raise money for this. For one, we built 2 robots. So we have to raise money for the robots, and we also have to raise money for the competitions. Some teams have to do it for space. Luckily, we do have an amazing sponsor for space, which is ASD. But what my primary job on the team is reaching out to community members as well as corporate sponsors and corporate members, because
Like BAE or Fidelity or...
So yes, absolutely. So there are companies that fund robotics teams quite. They either fund a lot of teams, like
Are there dream teams
BAE.
being funded?
So there definitely are. There are some teams that, there's one team that is in a NASA hangar. But, yeah, I'm not kidding.
No pressure.
No.
Right.
What makes robotics special is that it's like an actual working environment. So we have all the same constraints. We have budget constraints. We have time constraints. We have to work with other people. And we have to figure all of that out and get a glimpse into the real working world, basically. And so, obviously, the same way that people do it in the business world, we have to figure out all of our problems together.
How do you market yourself?
So one way is we go to a lot of community outreach events. So I can just tell you this week, once a month for Team Phoenix, we've had a relationship with the Nashua Soup Kitchen. So we have at least 3 members go down at least once a month, and we just help out for the dinner service. So that's simply one way. So that's we have a few community members that we've we've had long-term relationships with, but we also go to many other outreach events as well as create marketing methods as well as supplies. So this year we redesigned our brochure, business cards, and we create all sorts of graphic design and stuff for.
What's a typical budget that you need to operate smoothly?
We function on about $25,000 to $30,000 a year. It all depends on how many competitions we go to. Mm-hmm. So each year we go to at least 2 competitions. So this year it's Wyndham and Revere. And the competitions, they can cost from, official competitions, they can cost roughly $2,500 to $4,000.
What's your budget needs this year?
This year, again, it all depends on how far we get in the competition. But if we make it to regionals, which is April 14th and 15th at Boston University, then we are operating on a budget of roughly $20,000 to $25,000.
Yeah. How close are you to that goal right now?
Fairly close.
Fairly close.
Fairly close. We raised roughly $5,000 in the fall, in a quarter, which was fantastic because at a community outreach event, and I can give you the quick little review, was October 14th, 15th. We met someone in Abbott, and he gave us contacts, and they're a fantastic sponsor.
And who calls? Who calls these contacts? You?
Business team.
Ian, do you do any of that?
That's usually something that's left to the business team, but anybody who wants to can be involved in that.
Like our systems lead as well contacted a local machinist, local machining company, and it's High Tech Fabrication in Milford, because his father knows the owner, and we've been developing a relationship with them.
So there's room for people. If somebody wanted to donate, how would they contact you?
So you can either you can go to our website at any time at team2342.org. Team2342.org. And that's our team number, so each team has a number at the competitions, so you'll see them sporting it all the time. So there's that way. You can always email us.
So if a Tully Buick or a Fidelity said, hey, you know what, we're gonna put a little bit of money in your organization, but we want your machine to have our little bumper sticker. Do they do that? Are they allowed to do that?
Yep. So we
like
have,
like a NASCAR type of situation.
So just like many companies, and because we are a nonprofit organization as a team, we have sponsor tiers. So it starts at bronze, silver, gold, and platinum, and they're all different money. They all have different ranges based on how much people donate. And It can go from simply putting your company logo on our website to putting it on the robot at the competitions, as well as giving a presentation to your company about our team, and that's gold and higher. So,
Ian, where do you want to go to college?
I'm definitely looking into WPI and RPI as my top options. Again, technical colleges is what I'm looking into. Of course, there are other options like RIT, Wentworth, but WPI is probably my dream school.
And once you go there, you want to come back to New Hampshire and work, right?
Oh, for sure. Best place to work.
Maybe you can work with Dean Kamen or something.
That would be great. I would be honored.
There is a really cool program that he's sponsoring right now. It's called ARMY. And it has to do with biotechnology. You can grow an ear or an arm or skin with the DNA. And there's a program, if this actually passes the House, because we just passed the Senate, once you graduate from one of those colleges and you want to get into that particular industry, well, they'll hire you and they'll pay for your schooling that you passed, provided that you stick around for 5 or 7 years. So it's an incentive to stay here in New Hampshire. We want to keep you back. You know, we want to keep you here in New Hampshire. All right, where you want to go to college?
Like the same thing as Ian, WPI, RIT.
What is the attraction there?
It's a very good technical school, and they have a lot of robotics kids there. They specifically.
Is it hard to get in there?
You have to be a good student to get in, but when you're on robotics, it gives you an upper hand.
Do they recognize charter schools?
Yeah, I think so.
I'd say people are definitely starting to recognize charter schools, especially ASD, because we have come a long way.
We have schools coming to us now looking for students.
Really? Headhunting, huh? Oh, wonderful. Where do you want to go?
I am interested in going to UMass Amherst as well as UMass Lowell. I'm looking more towards just a state school for undergrad, but I'm also open to many other options because I've been accepted into a few others. But I'm definitely waiting on WPI just because I have a big interest in biotech as well as biomed as a major.
So this Army thing might be something that you're actually interested in.
Absolutely.
So you heard about it? Have you heard about it?
I've heard it mentioned. I don't know the nitty-gritty, but I definitely have heard of it. I've definitely heard of it.
It's going to be local, and if it passes, it's going to be an amazing. New Hampshire's going to be on the map for this type of engineering, and we want to attract the best. And of course, we want to keep your talent here local because you're the future. You know? So when we talk about robotics, real quick, we got like five minutes left. It's vague. I mean, are we just talking about machines that make cars? And what is it? Robotics. What does it entail? I mean, give me a spectrum.
I think our team, or robotics teams in general, usually the actual bots that we end up building tend to be pretty constrained. They tend to be bots that drive around and play a certain game. But a lot of the things that go into building these robots are definitely concepts that can carry us forward into any sort of industry. I'll tell you a personal interest of mine is neural networks and machine learning. I've been looking into using a neural network to basically drive the robot forward, which is basically a form of artificial intelligence.
I was just going to say, is that AI?
Sorry, I'm sorry, yeah.
I love The Matrix, by the way. I've watched The Matrix, I don't know how many times. I think it's kind of scary.
The concept is incredible.
Yeah. So through some of these very basic, really, games that we're given, we're able to take it as far and as wide as we could ever want to. And I don't think there's too many other opportunities that you could find in a high school scenario to experiment at that level. And it's something that I've just been thrilled to be able to do, really.
And you're learning other things. I mean, you're learning history. I would imagine you're learning English, communication, obviously, critical reading, things of that nature. Learning how to manage money, obviously. It's fascinating. I'm just curious, in general, when you talk about robotics, though, out in the big world, what are other things that I mean, we're talking about ATM machines, but what are we talking about?
Well, I've heard a lot of people say that robots are going to take over the world. So in response, I, of course, tell them that I want to be leading the charge. I don't want to be...
Peaceful,
yeah,
peaceful.
Of course, yeah. So for me, robotics is a applying what I'm learning at school to a real life scenario, because school can be, very conceptual sometimes, and you don't understand how it will fit into the real world. And then I get to robotics, I'm like, okay, this makes sense. This is how I apply this. And it's just a lot of fun, really. It's a lot of fun.
We're living in a little difficult times where there's a lot of violence. We're seeing it on the news. And, years ago, we got rid of the Marlboro Man. And I'm kind of, what does this have to do with robotics? Well, we got rid of the Marlboro Man because it influenced people to smoke. And nowadays, we're seeing kids, teenagers, young ones, sitting in front of a TV 5, 8, 10 hours a day, playing games, and it doesn't look constructive. Is this a great alternative so that you're not putting your mind towards violent things that are going on with video games? I mean, obviously that helps you with your dexterity and stuff like that, but this is way beyond that, right? This is fun, applying video technology to education, right?
It is applying everything that, robotics is the future. We all know that, concepts in robotics, whether it is software, fabrication, leading the charge in the business world, the programs help really, they create this opportunity for students to not only learn these crucial skills, but to actually apply them in the real world. And not only, of course, kids, they are in front of screens all day. And I do think that, joining a FIRST team and getting involved and starting to learn the basics of robotics, business skills, whatever it may be, is definitely a fantastic alternative.
It's a good way to direct that interest into...
It's still a game.
Yeah.
It's a game, and honestly, it can also play along. If you have an interest in video games, then you can design. You can learn how to design and how to code. Say different. You can learn how to use certain software for controls and and create a real life video game per se. So. Well,
I'm really glad that you came. I'm excited for your future. I hope somebody picks up this show and contributes to your program. That would be kind of cool. And wish you success with WPI or in Amherst Lowell. And we want you back. We want you guys back in New Hampshire and helping out with AI and whatever you want to do. Biotechnology or whatever. So thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having us.
Listen, that's a great school. This is a great program. If you want to get your kids involved with something that's really fun, or if you want to see something that's exciting, go to one of these events. It's a blast. It really is. So until next week, thanks for watching Gate City Chronicles.
The preceding program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.